I'm Jason Hirth, and this is MMA Pipeline. What are we talking about today? UFC 241, post-fight conversation. A lot of surprises. I got a couple things I want to talk about. We're going to talk about all three, the main card fights, the ones that I want to talk about. Let's be honest, what I want to talk about is really all that matters. Anthony Pettis and Nate Diaz fight. Number one, the fact that I called this one wrong. One of two that I've called wrong on the card. And much to my chagrin, I called the main fight right, and I didn't want to, but I did. But we'll start off with the Nate Diaz and Anthony Pettis fight, which ended up being a war. I knew that fight was going to be the fight of the night. According to Dana White and the powers that be in the UFC, the fight of the night was Romero and Paulo Costa. I just don't see it that way. I think the Nate Diaz fight and Anthony Pettis fight, man, that fight just brought, those two just, they brought it. It was so much fun to watch those two warriors bring it. One of the things that we need to talk about is ring rust. What is ring rust? What is this thing, this mythological thing of ring rust? And maybe other benefits to it, because Nate Diaz, in the first round, his timing was off, and that's what ring rust does. You don't have the same timing than if you've been active and fighting like Anthony Pettis. That being said, in the immortal words of Conor McGregor, there are levels to this. And there are levels to this. And I think Nate Diaz really showed, for a number of reasons, that he's a needle mover, but also, this guy, this otherworldly badass, came in against a surging Anthony Pettis, and he just, the first round was definitely Pettis. It took Diaz the first round to kind of get his feet under him. He just didn't look like himself. And even in the beginning of the second round, then Diaz, much like the Korean Zombie, he came out and just started zombie fighting. He didn't really plan on fighting that way, he said in the post-fight, but he fought Anthony Pettis how you fight Anthony Pettis. That's clinching him, holding him, making it hard, pressure, and that's all he did, is he pressured him into a win. He did something to Anthony Pettis I've never seen Anthony Pettis do. In the third round, Diaz was just pounding on him, and he was on his way out. And Pettis was on his way out. And he literally just covered his head, curled up, and turned his back on Diaz to protect his stomach and ribs from the punishment in his head that he was getting. And he turned his back and he turned his butt up to him. And he just sat there and took more punishment, but he was curling up. I've never seen anybody do that to Anthony Pettis. So my hat really does go off to Nate Diaz. I am a member of the Diaz Army. I am a believer. I will never doubt again. Nate, I know you're legit, and it's hard to bet against you on anything, but you proved me wrong time and time again. I'm a believer, man. After 3 years layoff and coming in at the apex of the sport and performing like you did, the only place my mind really goes is how good really would you have been if you had been as active as you should have been. My God. Sky's the limit for you, Diaz. Good job on that fight. So now we're going to move on to Romero and Paulo Costa, which is also one of the best fights I've ever seen in recent memory. Paulo Costa, you really proved that you were legit, that you're now in line for a title, first or second in line, I believe Dana was talking about. To do what you did to Romero was a wild fight. A lot of people disputed the judging on it. I agree with the judging on this one. Paulo Costa's legit. Maybe fighting once a year and ring rust is not a thing. It just works for him, or maybe it works for certain people. I don't know. But again, ring rust was brought into the picture. This guy's only fighting once a year. But he came out guns blazing against an extremely dangerous fighter, and he did really well. So my hat goes off to Paulo Costa. What an amazing fight. What a dynamic display of all-around skills by both fighters. Man, I can't say enough good things about that fight. Man, the UFC is pulling rabbits out of hats and making things happen. Man, that fight alone, the Romero Paulo Costa fight, was worth the pay-per-view. And I'm serious. Just paying that for that one fight would have been worth it in my mind. What an exciting fight. Just the fireworks. And just to see a guy like Romero backing up, 70% of the fight? Nobody saw that coming. Romero, what is going on? He wasn't like himself, and Paulo Costa was huge for the weight class. Good job, Costa, and good job, Romero. Even in that loss, Romero, you look great. I'm very proud of what you guys have done for the sport in that fight. You guys furthered the sport. You guys are gladiators. You're warriors, and I'm very excited about what you displayed. Daniel Cormier, and I'm a little depressed about Miocic and Cormier fight, because Miocic, again, I would rather have a conversation with one of my sandals that I'm wearing right now. This sandal has more personality than Miocic. Miocic is just a hard guy to get behind for a number of reasons, and something about him. He looks like he's constantly smelling a fart. He's got that look on his face like something smells bad around him. I just don't like his personality. I'm sorry. The heavyweight champ of the UFC, the baddest man on the planet right now. I'm sorry. I can't get behind you, man. Anytime you fight, I root against you. And maybe that's a good thing for fans to have an anti-hero, but something about him, I can't stomach him. And so I was really upset to see Cormier lose. Two things, Cormier. Number one, Cormier, you got to listen to your corner. I heard in between rounds, they were telling you to wrestle more. Stop playing Miocic's game. What are you doing? You had success in the first round with your wrestling, and after that, you abandoned it. Went to some weird rope-a-dope style that you've never shown before. You don't have the range or the head movement to do. And then Miocic decides, okay, I'm going to start pounding his body. So in the fourth round, he comes out and just starts, what do you do? Punch you in the same spot 13, 14, 15 times. You never defended it. You took it, absorbed it, and then what does that do? Well, you kill the body, the head will die. So he's killing your body, and then it opens up your head because now you have to start protecting your ribs more, and then you got finished. So you didn't listen to your corner when they were telling you to wrestle. He can't hit you in the body when you're not just standing in front of a superior striker who's got length and size. You know, you're one of the better wrestlers in the sport, and you abandon your wrestling. Just a bad game plan in particular. I mean, you went off on your own, man. You know, as a corner, there's nothing more frustrating than that. I've cornered guys that you sit there and you go over game plans for every situation and every possible thing that could happen in a fight. They get smacked a couple times, and they're off doing their own thing now. You know, they were just on autopilot. I knew that it was going to go bad for you. I just didn't know. I mean, you lasted a long time. You were still winning in a lot of the exchanges. They said they gave the second round to Miocic. I don't see it that way. I think you won every round going into that fourth round. But, you know, what does weight mean? And how does it pertain to what type of a fight you're going to see? Miocic came in the lightest he's ever come in, and that's 9 pounds lighter than what he did for your last fight. And I believe Cormier came in a little bit lighter, what he normally does, but Cormier came in much heavier than Miocic. That makes Miocic lighter, maybe not as strong, maybe a little lighter, a little faster. That's really what did Cormier in this situation. Cormier did not have the wherewithal to deal with the stand-up, and he just was in a stand-up mode. Why you'd give up the best part of your offense is beyond me, but you did it, and it cost you the belt. You lived and died by that sword. I respect it as a fighter, but as a coach, I think that's probably one of the most frustrating things that can happen to a coach and that can happen to a fighter of your caliber, man. So, you know, you live and you learn. It happens even at the highest echelons of the sport. You were the baddest man on the planet until last Saturday, and it cost you big time, man. It hurt your legacy. It hurt a lot of things. And worst of all, I think it hurt the sport. I think it's bad that it happened. And, you know, Miocic's going to go on and probably win his next 2 or 3 fights unless he fights Ngannou. And I'm already an Ngannou fan, but I'm definitely going to be pulling for Ngannou versus Miocic for a number of reasons, and all of which I've enumerated. You know, the only thing that I want to talk about after all that is Sarah Alpar. Sarah last week made it into the UFC after a stellar performance on the Dana White fight series. I'm extremely proud of Sarah Alpar. You know, I consider her a friend, but I'm also a huge fan of hers. She has a go-for-broke style. Dana said, you know, one of the things he really liked about her is she threw that, you know, that coming from downtown left hook and was moving forward even though, you know, in the face of adversity and was still going for the fight. And that's why I love Sarah Alpar. We have a potential star on our hands here locally. Sarah, Too Sweet Alpar, you guys keep an eye on her. She's going to do big, big things in the sport. She's just getting started. So I'm proud of you, Sarah. I yelled and screamed until my voice was gone, and it's just now coming back. And I'm telling you, I'm proud of our hometown girl. And we've got a lot of other, especially female talent. Christina Williams, a lot of other big names. Stephanie Getmacher. We got big names that are going to do big things in the sport. I believe that. And I love women's MMA, so I'm here to support the hometown ladies. And we've got some other guys that could do great things too. So I'm very proud of Oklahoma. I'm proud of what we're doing. Good job, Sarah. I'm proud of you. This is Jason Hirth. This has been MMA Pipeline. Thank you.